Hey, what's up? Ruben Skies here, and on today's episode, Sound Like Numb by Linkin Park. Okay, in order to recreate Numb sound, let's begin with the drums. Okay, we can listen to a pretty dry sound with some attack, not a lot, just enough to make it sound aggressive. The kick drum has a lot of body, it sounds big, and also the snare, but it sounds a little thinner, but with enough attack to sound aggressive. So let's begin recreating the kick drum. Okay, in order to achieve this sound, I used a sample that out of the box sounds a lot like Numb. This sample has a lot of body, it sounds big enough, a little bit dry, but it lacks a little bit of attack. So I used an EQ and I boosted a little of the high frequencies, and also to give it a little boost on the lows. And finally, a multiband compressor to boost some frequencies that I like. And then I used this second just for the attack. And because I just needed the attack, I cut all the lows and also the mids. I only used the high frequencies, multiband compressor to make it a little brighter. And finally, a limiter that I used as a noise gate. Now, for the snare, let's hear Linkin Park's drums. We can hear a super dry snare, a little bit thin, and with a little bit of attack. In order to recreate, I used only one snare. Normally, I use 2 or 3, but I feel that with one, it sounds pretty good. It was the empty power drum kit snare. I think it sounds amazing. I've tried a lot of other drums, even that are expensive, but I just love this one. And all I had to do was just some EQ, cutting some lows, just a little bit of frequencies that I don't like, and the ringy sound of the snare. And finally, the cymbals. I also use the empty power drum kit cymbals, and I only use this EQ, cutting some lows and some middle high frequencies. A comparison of my drums and Linkin Park drums. First mine. And also something that they do is that they use a sample that they play along with the snare. Okay, now let's check out the bass. Okay, that was Linkin Park's bass, and now mine. Okay, Linkin Park's bass sounds a lot like direct line and a little bit of amp. So I tried to do something similar. I used mono bass. Okay, and then I used an EQ to give it a little more stringy sound, a little bit of more body, a multiband compressor to bring up some highs and some mids, a limiter, a compressor, and lastly, another EQ. just to cut a little bit of highs. And now in the mix, this will be Linkin Park's bass and this will be mine. Now, let's check out the guitars. First, let's listen to Linkin Park's guitars. They sound big, a little bit of reverb, and with a lot of distortion. And for this, I use 2 amps. First, this one. That sounds a lot like Linkin Park. But it lacks a little bit of highs. So then I use the same as the last time when I recreate Parasite If by Bring Me the Horizon. Together. Alone. It gives a little more of highs and a little bit more of body. In the mix, and for the EQ, I used first a normal EQ, a guitar EQ, cutting some lows and just a little bit of highs. And then I also cut this of cutting a little bit of these frequencies, so we can listen to the synths. Then a multiband compressor to give more body, and the fresh air. It gives a little more of highs. Without, with. It's like more in your face, like in front of you. Now the whole mix. Okay, now for the vocals, let's listen to Chester Got Bennington's vocals.
Holding too tightly, afraid to lose control.
Chester is one of the best singers of all time, and he really sounds incredible. We can listen that it has a little bit of reverb, maybe a slap delay, and their EQ. This is Chester's, this is mine.
Holding too tightly, afraid to lose control. 'Cause everything that you thought I would be.
Okay, now to get a similar sound, first I use 3 channels. Now let's listen to the vocals with no effects. Afraid to lose control. Then I used a reverb. Afraid to lose control. And then I used an EQ, cutting some lows, bringing some highs up, and cutting some frequencies that I don't like a lot. A little bit of more frequencies cutting, a compressor, a delay. I use the preset of widen, that it's like a slap delay. It makes your sound bigger. And then I also use the fresh air again to give it a little more of highs. Raw vocals. Afraid to lose control. With effects. Afraid to lose control. And now at the end, I used also a limiter to match the gain with Chester's vocals.
Holding too tightly,
Afraid to lose control. Now the whole mix.
holding too tightly,
Afraid to lose control.
'cause everything that you thought I would be.
That was everything for today's episode. Thank you so much for watching the video. Don't forget to listen to my music. Links in the description. Goodbye.
I've become so